What's up and welcome to another episode of GizmoSlip. Today we're going to be talking about the Note 9 versus the Galaxy S9 Plus. Is one better than the other, or are they essentially the same thing? Now I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. We're going to primarily talking about the major differences as well as the important similarities between these two devices. To start off, let's talk about the design. Now both of these devices are beautifully designed. They have glass fronts and backs. They have lots of curved edges on both devices, though the Note 9 is definitely more squarish along the corners. I really like Samsung's styling overall. I mean, it's not my favorite. I really like the way the Huawei P20 Pro looks with the twilight color. Like, that is just gorgeous. But the Note 9 and S9 Plus are fantastic. Now, the main design differences are evident when you look at the back camera as well as the overall size. The Note 9 is just a tiny bit bigger and heavier, and you can tell that when you hold both devices in your hand. Overall, design-wise, they are very similar with only minor differences between these two phones. Let's talk performance for a moment. These two phones have essentially identical specs when it comes to performance. The same processor, the same GPU, similar levels of RAM in the small version, though you can get an 8 gig version in the more expensive 512 gig size point of the Note 9. Now, of course, that 8 gigs of RAM versus 6 gigs of RAM is only going to really benefit you by allowing you to keep a handful of extra apps open at the same time. So really, no big difference here in the performance category. Now, Samsung is touting that they have carbon water cooling in the Note 9, but it's essentially just a marketing gimmick. Overall temperatures are going to be very similar between these two devices. Now, when it comes to displays, the main difference between these two phones is the size. The Note 9 has a 6.4 inch display with slightly smaller bezels, while the S9 Plus has a 6.2 inch display. Now, the quality on both of these displays are going to be nearly identical. Of course, the Note 9 is about 6 months newer, so it's probably going to have just a tiny bit brighter display, maybe a tiny bit additional colors in the display, but it's going to be impossible to notice it with the naked eye because both phones' displays are going to be so good. And of course, both phones have curved edges on the sides. Overall, I'm honestly not much of a fan of this because it just makes it easier to have accidental touches. Basically, these curved edges forces me to always have a case on my S9 Plus, which I don't really like. I love having a phone without a case. Of course, it's risky because these phones are so expensive these days. Now, when it comes to battery, the Note 9 has a 4000 mAh battery, while the S9 Plus only has a 3500 mAh. Now, of course, the Note 9 has a slightly bigger screen, so it's going to use just slightly more power to power that display. But I would expect a 10 to 12% increase in battery life on the Note 9. The S9 Plus already has pretty good battery life. I get between 4.5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time, depending on what I'm doing. And I think that's really good for a smartphone. So, I mean, the Note 9 clearly has an advantage here, but it's a fairly small one. Now, when it comes to storage options, the S9 Plus has a 64, 128, and a 256 gig option, while the Note 9 only has two options, a 128 gig with 6 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig version with 8 gigs of RAM. And 512 is the largest we've seen. It's an insanely large amount of space. This is as much as many laptops these days. I think that's fantastic. On top of that, both of these phones have micro SD card slots, making it easy to increase your storage space. So, I mean, if I was the average person, I would probably get the 64 gig version of the S9 Plus or maybe the 128 gig version of the Note 9 and then add a micro SD card slot. You can get micro SD card slots up to 400 gigs in space. So, I mean, it's a massive increase in overall storage space. Now, of course, the ultra special feature for the Note 9 is the S Pen, and the S Pen has a number of unique functions this time. It has Bluetooth embedded inside the S Pen, and the great thing about that is that you can now remotely control the Note 9. That means you can open the camera app with a long press, you can tap once to take a photo, or you can double tap to switch modes, such as switching to your front camera or back camera. Now, of course, I really enjoyed the stylus on the Note 8. It is very accurate. The 4000 levels of pressure in the S Pen allows for some pretty detailed stylus work. Of course, the display is not really that big. 6.4 inches is reasonable, but it's not a tablet, and it's not going to be as good as the Apple Pencil, which has directional, allowing you to do calligraphy work or very detailed, fine artwork. So, I mean, yes, you can do some artwork with the Note 9 for sure, but it's not going to be the same level of precision as the Apple Pencil on the iPad, for example, which is probably the best in the business right now if you're looking to draw on a tablet. Now, the cameras on both of these phones are fantastic. They have dual rear cameras at 12 megapixels each, one with a wide angle, one with a telephoto, and of course they have the new dual aperture and super slow-mo modes on these as well. The front-facing camera is also excellent at 8 megapixels and an f-stop of f1.7. That is a ridiculously good front camera, and it can record 1440p video, which is also fantastic. On top of that, both of these phones feature autofocus on the front camera, which is a very rare feature indeed. So if you're looking to do selfie photos and videos, either of these phones are fantastic. Now, when it comes to value, how much does each phone cost, and is it worth the difference in cost? The Note 9 retails for $999 for the base 128 gig version, while the S9 Plus goes for $840 for the 64 gig version. Now, if you get matching sizes, it costs $890, which is a $110 difference between these two phones. Now, the question is the upgraded specs in the Note 9 worth that additional cost? Now, one factor to consider is the various promotional deals offered by different carriers and services. Now, Samsung offers 15,000 V-Bucks, which is Fortnite's in-game currency, which is about $125 worth of V-Bucks. That is a lot of V-Bucks. You get that with the device if you pre-order it, or instead of V-Bucks, you can choose to get a $300 pair of AKG headphones. Now, I doubt that they are really worth $300 or on par with $300 headsets. They might be, though. I'm sure they're good. Currently, me being a hardcore Fortnite player, it's a hands down. Get the Note 9. It's better in many ways. And you get 15,000 V-Bucks, which saves you money, spending money on Fortnite in the future. And I love the exclusive Galaxy skin, but that's just me. If you're not a Fortnite player and you don't care about getting a nice set of headphones, then the S9 Plus may be a very viable option for you if you want to save $110 or $160 if you choose to get the 64 gig version. Now, overall, the Note 9 is the clearly better phone between these two. It has a larger display, you get the S Pen, you get a larger battery, and you can get up to 512 gigs of storage. If you want the best Samsung device that money can buy, get the Note 9. If you want to save a few bucks, then get the S9 Plus instead. It's essentially the same phone. It's almost the same. You can't say it's the same phone, but it's really close. What do you think? I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know down below, and of course, take the poll in the top right. Which of these two phones would you buy? Now, I gotta mention, I am giving away a Note 9. I've paired up with iBlazin to give away this Note 9. I'll be featuring them in a drop test very soon, and as a thank you, they also wanted to give away one of these devices along with an iBlazin case. This is going to be a fantastic combo. For those of you that want to check out this giveaway, I'll have a link in the top comment down below. Go check it out. It's going to be awesome. That's it for this comparison review between these two phones. If you enjoyed it, be sure to smash that like button. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this episode. We'll see you guys in the next one. Brandon out.